Welcome to a special edition of Filter Free with Tahira Renee Christie. During a recent interview with one of my very best friends, Elizabeth Boyd, we talked about abortion recovery and the new book that she has coming up talking about that very subject. Some of the conversations that we had were very intense, and I wanted to share with you some of my expertise and experience with the subject. So I hope that this conversation is of benefit to you. If it is not, you do have the option to not listen, but understand that the opinions that are expressed in this podcast are that of my own and Elizabeth, and we appreciate you listening. Please grab a copy of her latest book off of Amazon. The link is in bio.
I think the biggest thing for therapy is feeling connected with the therapist and feeling that you can trust that they're going to have not a solution to your problem, but give you enough that you feel that validation. I mean, we keep talking about validation. I say that because I see it so much in the way that people interact with each other. I felt like I've had some really great therapists, and then I've had some therapists that are like, "You don't need me. You're fine." And that happens
Yeah.
a lot, and that is invalidating because while I may have the gift of gab and can talk my way through anything, that does not equate me being fine. But in today's
Right.
society with therapy, if you're not on your deathbed, literally actively trying to kill yourself or strung out on drugs and alcohol, I have Kaisers, so they're like, we don't have anybody in our roster for you, you know? I've literally had therapists like release me on multiple occasions. I'm like, dang,
Mm.
because they're like, you got this. You just need to pick yourself up by your bootstraps and figure it out. So I've had that happen. So finding a safe space, I think, is the most important thing that I've experienced. And the
Okay.
great part for me is the safest spaces that I've been in are the ones I created. I wish
Mm.
that I had more safe spaces in a clinical setting, but they're just not
Mm-hmm.
designed that way. Therapy is to give you resources to read and explore and educate yourself with. They're not there to heal you. Have a great day, Talia. They're not there to heal you. They're there to read
Mm-hmm.
you. And I had to figure that out through years of therapy. So that's why I became a life
So,
coach.
so you're going to the therapy hoping and positive that it's going to heal you, only to learn that it's not actually there to heal you.
A resource. Same thing with the church. I went to church expecting to
Mm-hmm.
get healing there because I see people do
Mm-hmm.
altar calls. I'm in with the pastor and the pastor's wife. There's lots of
Mm-hmm.
people there. Well, I had to
Mm-hmm.
17 years of figuring out the church is a hospital and everybody's a patient. And there's not very
Yeah.
many nurses and doctors there at all. They're not there to heal you. They're there to appease you, to ensure you come back week after week, pay your tithes and offerings so their building can continue. So that's
Right.
not a safe space either because there's a lot of judgment in that space.
Right.
So that's why I say is I was like, well, then where do people go? And that's when
Mm.
I started with retreats and I started with women's groups and specialty groups because the only safe spaces are the ones that are literally created for you. And you're getting
Yeah.
me excited about wanting to do my retreat again because I'm like, dang, people really do need this. And I happen to have the capacity to manage it because the average person has not done the work and they don't know how to heal. They don't know how to
Mm-hmm.
and self-soothing is ultimately what got me through. Now,
Mm.
I read a lot, I ask questions a lot, I have smart people on my roster, I have amazing friends, I've got a great village, but I put the work in for that. And the average
Yes.
person is not willing to do that. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, the average person is going to need a retreat. They're going to need a guru. They're
Mm-hmm.
going to need a
Mm-hmm.
teacher, some type of healing person that can come in and stand in the gap of what they're missing, where their
Mm-hmm.
deficiencies are, so that they can find the validation for their experience and begin the healing journey.
Mm-hmm.
But most
Mm-hmm.
people begin the healing
Mm-hmm.
and then the work happens and they're like, oh, that's painful. I don't want to do the work. And then they're
Mm-hmm.
fine with the
Yeah.
complacency, staying right where they are. How is that going to help
Mm-hmm.
you? How ultimately is that going to get you to the next space so that you actually get through the breakthrough? Because it's like cleaning out your closet. I compare it to cleaning out the pantry. You got to get everything out the pantry, clean off the gunk, wipe down the walls, and then begin putting the cans and the boxes back. And it's a mess before you do that. And that unfortunately is where most people stop in their healing process. They're not able to get past the hard work. It's a job. And
Yeah.
therapists need a therapist because
Yeah.
most therapists are not very good at filtering. Most therapists
Mm.
started in the industry because they care about people and they want to help people. And then, like most jobs, like teaching or anything else, like preaching, anything where you give constantly, you become complacent because you
Mm-mm-mm.
stratospheres of types of person. You have the people you really want to help, but are not willing to help themselves, and the people who don't need your help, but require your attention. And you just become
Mhm.
complacent and you don't see the value that you bring week after week, day after day of giving, and you're holding on to it. So then you become callous yourself. So it is really hard to find healers. That's why I say you need a team because it's not for one
Mhm.
person to take on that they specialize in the aspects that are necessary for true healing. You can't just heal somebody spiritually and ignore their finances. You can't just make
Right.
sure somebody saves their money and then they're all messed up in the head. You can't just
Mhm.
fix their head and they don't have stable housing and living. You got to heal the whole person, which is why
Mhm.
coaching and retreats become important because it's typically a team job. And when you're dealing with something like abortion healing, there are so many layers that get a woman to a position where they're in the position to make that decision. And
100%.
believe it or not, a lot of women have had more than one abortion.
Yeah.
Usually 3 or 4 is the average, which means you got that first time person who they can oftentimes be brought to their knees and shut down from one experience. And then you've got the person who's, I've done it 10, 12, 15 times, and this is just my method of birth control. And all
Yeah.
of it requires levels of healing. And all of it stems from a space that this woman or this child may have been in that none of it has ever gotten addressed or validated. I keep coming back to that word because ultimately that is what is missing. This woman
Yeah.
needs to understand that her experience was there because she didn't feel something, didn't get something, didn't receive something back way back when in her childhood, in her relationship with her dad, in her relationship with her mom, her whatever it happened, that she is now seeking that validation from this sexual experience with this particular guy that led to that particular sexual experience that led her to having that decision to be made where she's now having to figure out if she wants to bear a child or not. And it's
Mhm.
a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah.
So even this is even talking about this is bringing up feelings for myself. Like, damn, these are the things that I don't necessarily think about all the time, but when they come up, I'm like, damn, do you really have been through a lot? And I don't talk about it enough because even if I do talk about it, the judgment. I know a lot of church people. The judgment is probably the first thing. That's not valid. That's the opposite of validation. it's
Mhm.
it's the guilt, which is self-assigned, but we all feel it, and self-forgiveness. You know,
Yeah.
Cares if anybody else forgives me. I need to forgive myself. God didn't already forgiven me 20 times, 1,000 times over because I've asked many, many times. Have I forgiven me? Have I revalidated myself, recommitted myself to myself to say you're okay,
Yeah.
in spite of, because of?
So then what what are the things that you would say can be improved in a therapy or a coaching or a retreat setting? You've kind of touched on it a bit, but if you have more to say.
Yeah, in detail, I would move away from it feeling or even sounding or even saying therapy. That term is dead to me. And I say
Yeah.
that because it is truly, it's like a library. Library still exists, but books on tape, I don't even know what but you can stream a book faster than you can read a book. Therefore, that is the technology that we're working with. So
Mhm.
therapy is like looking at a library. It's old technology. So coaching actually would signify that you are in the ring with this person. You are giving them the tools, you're giving them the conditioning, the training in order for them to go out there and be a champion for themselves, in order for them to reap the benefits of healing thyself, of
Mhm.
connecting with your source, whatever that is, whether that's
Mhm.
God, Jesus, Buddha, Allah, Reiki, inside whatever it is, you connecting with your source to find that level of validation that would suggest that you are okay, that you are fine, that you have grace within you. You have grace on your life because you've been through something real that is not your fault, that you have the opportunity to be validated, to be upgraded, and to help heal another person with. That it happened for a reason, not just so you can have a sad story about yourself, but so that you can also support the next woman. Because one thing I learned as a woman who was a single mom for 10 years, and I was told this many moons ago when I had my first set of kids, okay? You're the only single woman, single mother on this block, of this city, of this state, of this country, of this world. There are many of us walking around bewildered, trying to figure out how to make this thing work. A woman who's had an abortion, you are not the first. You will not be the last. I don't care what wives made tale is going on in the United States right now. They're gonna find a way. If you don't want the baby, there's gonna be a way for you to terminate the pregnancy.
Always.
I don't want to go back to back alley abortions where women are dying because they made a healthcare decision for themselves and their family. So that validation has to come from you. And the coaching has to come from someone who has been there. I don't want to see any male coaches coaching women on abortion validation. And I think that's what the term needs to be, abortion validation. Women need coaching support from women, not even necessarily clinical doctors, again, because that clinical portion of it they're not designed to heal. It's the difference between taking psych meds and taking magnesium for your mood. Magnesium.
It's a Band-Aid versus just getting rid of the root cause to begin with.
Do you want to heal or do you want to be pacified? And if you're dealing with abortion healing, like coaching through this, my goal for you would to give you, do you want the magnesium pill or do you want the psych meds? That one costs $150. This one's $15. This one will heal you. This one will appease you for today. Just today, just for this. You know what I mean? So let's focus on healing women rather than appeasing them with resources as a therapist would for the moment. Let's help them to fish rather than serving them a meal. I want you to learn how to self-soothe so that you know that in those quiet moments, in those lonely moments where you can't find someone to validate your experience, you are self-validating so that you're going to be okay. So you understand mercy and the grace for your experience is going to come from within you, because that supply will never run out, because you have the capability of self-love. You have the capability of self-care. You have the capability of nourishing yourself versus seeking someone else to nourish you.
Okay, so then what does that lack of validation or lack of self-love cost you, the general you, in terms of anything? Aggravation, money, time, frustration. What is the cost of that lack of love?
That's a great question. I mean, for some women, it costs them their lives. Whether you continue to live or you actually are suicidal. This is one of the hardest things a woman will ever go through, could ever go through. And I don't know the statistics of how many women have gone through it, because it is such a not talked about subject, but I'm sure we could find out. But I would assume at least 40% of women have gone through this. And then the women who decide to not go through it and they raise a child that they did not want and don't have the capacity or the means to take care of, how many kids are in the foster system or adoption center, and the guilt associated with that. What does it cost? It's cost her life, because she's never been stable. While she's alive, is she living? Did she ever find a husband? No. Has she ever been validated? No. Did she ever find her peace or her purpose? No. She's literally floating through life. living, everybody dies, but not everybody lives, Drake said. So true. She never had the opportunity to just be free and just live and say, you know what, I did this and I'm so sorry. And I acknowledge you. She never has. And at 68, 69 years old, she will never validate that young lady who's 26 now. She'll never validate her. But now that girl has to find validation knowing she don't know who her daddy is. Mother does not acknowledge her. She has great foster parents, but every child will always long to be and know their mother. Their father too, but every daughter wants to be with their mama. And if your mama doesn't want, so to invalidate people who want an abortion, and I know she only had that child because he grew up in a religious family and abortion was not an option. So you validate having unprotected sex out of marriage. It's fine, but you don't validate the abortion. Which is it? Because if sin is sin, let's not damn one and say the other is okay, or the other is not okay. And this one, well, we can fornicate, but we can't abort.
Right.
So don't give me that.
Right.
We need to validate these women in whatever choice they make for their bodily autonomy to do what they want to do, so that they are not raising children suffering through their invalidation. We must find a way for women to be self-empowered and validate their experiences, so they are not passing on these generational curses based on they have not received what they needed as children. Because now we do have education. Now there is streaming services. Now there is Google. You can find out anything about anything if you want to. Are you willing to do the work? Which is why we got to teach these women how to fish, how to go out and find these resources for themselves so that they can self-soothe. And that's why the coaching and the group setting is so important, because the validation is built into the system. You'll get the education that therapy will give you, but you'll also get the validation that you need. You'll get the coaching and the guidance that you need. You'll get the resources that you need and the ongoing support that you desire, so that you can self-soothe with confidence.
Yeah. Thank you.
That was the pitch.
That's, oh my God. I'm like lamenting everything that's happening in the US right now, because I'm sorry, but abortion is none of your business and it should never be in politics. Shame on every politician out there and every evangelical, preacher who is making this like a topic, like it's anybody's business, like it's any debate. If you really want to do something about it, I keep saying this in my head, I'm like, every guy, and I keep seeing men, it's women too, but it's a lot of men, but I'm saying men, but it's a general term, but I just keep saying that these men who want to condemn women having abortions need to go out and they need to support a woman who they never could envision themselves supporting. They need to go out and provide her with a home, with food, with shelter, with a great medical, safe experience throughout a pregnancy. They need to support her and her child, and they need to get her to a place that she can then work, earn a living, support her child safely, securely. And I'm sorry, that is more work than they want to do. They would rather just say, don't have abortions and deal with it. I'm sorry, but you need to, if you're talking about it, you're the one who needs to deal with it as much, if not, well, not more, but as much, on the same level as the person.
Just castrate the men. Screw that. Screw the women getting, so you can't impregnate yourself. Someone has to stick something inside of you. So how about we get rid of sperm? How about every man just get a vasectomy at a young age? Instead of giving them foreskin, how about we just give them we cut off their supply when they turn 10? Because it sounds crazy, right? So it's just as crazy as telling a woman what to do with her body. You don't want you don't want your sons to go through all these things, but you want your daughters to go through it. We talk this big game, but not anybody's really willing to back it up. And these people who are doing it because of the Bible talks nothing about this at all. So it is opinion is what it is.
So going back to you, I know you've done a lot of personal work. So I'm going to ask this question just on two timelines in a a now present day setting, and also in a back to the time you experience abortion setting. So the question is, how important is it for you to handle this issue right now? So answer it for today, but also answer it for back then.
It was important to me back then because I was actually going through it. And it's important today because it's literally people's lives are on the line. Hence my passion for it. And the timeliness of your book is divine. And my prayer is that you get thrusted into the forefront of this conversation so that you have a real voice in it, so people can hear the need for these types of services. In those days, because it was so secretive, I went to the clinic twice. The first time I went, I want to say I was 8 weeks pregnant and or 10 weeks pregnant. And they said I was not pregnant enough. And I had to wait 3 more weeks to be 15 weeks pregnant to have the abortion. So when you're telling women, you have to, first of all, know you're pregnant at 6 weeks, and then you have to have the abortion before then. You're basically saying you can't have an abortion. Nobody knows unless you're trying to get pregnant that they're pregnant at 6 weeks. Most women's pregnancies don't show up until about 12 weeks. So the secretiveness of it all kept me from saying anything about it, and the need to not feel judged, knowing that I had judged myself. I will always judge me more harshly than anyone could. And so living inside of this body, knowing what I had done, knowing how I had disappointed God, my mother, and myself, I felt like a dirty rag, knowing that when I couldn't, so my kid's father took me to the clinic the first time. When I couldn't get the abortion, he came back to my home and raped me that day. And I say it like that because I did not want to have sex. I felt like, and he proceeded to have sex with me anyhow. And I just laid there. So that was additional trauma on top of the trauma. And then having to have an abortion 3 weeks after that. So, and knowing that both times I went into the clinic, there were the Bible toting people with the pamphlets, we can help you. I'm already here. This was a lot. And then you're making me feel additional layers of guilt standing outside in my fucking business. Trying to do what I need to do with my body, knowing I already had 3 kids I couldn't take care of. With this, he doesn't love me. And you want me to have a fourth? You're going to take the other 3 too? Because of course you're not. And then I'd sit with the guilt of, oh, I'm not raising my kids.
There's no way for anyone to win in that scenario.
No way. Except for to make a decision that makes sense for your fucking life. So the fact that anybody else could think that they can make that decision for you and have that be validated is mind-boggling. Because I already made the mistake of having sex with this man unprotected for the 4th time. Because this would have been my 3rd pregnancy with him, with my 4th child with him. I already made that mistake. I already did the godly thing and had the other 3 children. You mean you want a single mom of 4 kids and never have opportunity for love and have no money and stay on the county and do all these things that y'all say are bad to do anyhow, that who can survive on in California? I made a logical decision based on my family planning, based on the decisions I had to make, knowing I was sleeping with a rapist and a person who did not love me. Hell yeah, I was going to have that abortion 3 weeks later after this man did all these things to me. And you're going to try and stop that, but you weren't going to help me. You're going to send me to a therapist, if anything, to coach me into the godly way of dealing with the fact that I was fornicating. Can we stop right there and deal with that? Because you're not going to deal with that. That's still on the hush too. So there was no one who was going to convince me otherwise. That was going to take place that day. And I needed support in that way. I don't remember what the question was, but I hope the story.
Well, it was just about the importance. What was like the level of importance of handling it right now? And I was just asking it in a today and in a back then.
Oh yeah. It's ongoing support is necessary.
Emotional trauma after abortion. Let's just refer to that as it. Emotional trauma after abortion. So what would be better in your life if it were not a problem, if it were a non-issue? It's a weird question.
No, it's okay. So if I didn't have to deal with the trauma of abortion, how would life be different? the reality of the answer of that question is, I don't know, because it is a stain on my life, and it created the life that I experience now. That it's that my experiences are filtered through that experience. So I don't know what it would be like had I not had that trauma. What I do know is, because I've had the trauma, because I was willing to heal from it, I have created a peace within me and a stronger outlook on how I maneuver through the world. My level of empathy is off the charts for people who have experienced trauma, because I've experienced my trauma. When I talk to women who have never experienced major trauma, and I would consider this definitely a major trauma that many women have experienced, we do find it hard to relate, because I've experienced so much trauma. The way that I speak, which is very direct and in your face, is offensive to people who have not experienced trauma. And so, to answer your question, I could not answer that question. I could not tell you what life would look like had I not experienced it. But I can tell you that life is so much better for me because I have worked through my trauma and have allowed myself to see myself as a whole person who has experienced some holes that I've been able to fill. So I still feel whole in spite of the bullets that I've taken.
So I do see you as somebody who has worked through trauma and healed. And maybe there's still stuff ongoing, but I kind of think once you reach a 90% or more, you are at the healed stage. So let's go with that concept that you're largely or mostly or completely healed. And so now, with the comparison of now being healed and then not being healed, how is your life better now? Maybe that's still awkward, but maybe that's the question.
That's okay. So we're going to redefine the healing metrics that you utilize. I agree with you. Healed is not a great concept when it comes to trauma. Cycle or process or
continuum.
Yes, is more accurate, because you can have several processes happening at once, and not all of them completed their cycle, and them also happening simultaneously. So while I may have processed through the majority of my my abortion experience, I still have layers of being molested as a child processing to this day. I still have layers of my relationship with my kid's father. I've written books about this man, still processing to this day in how I see men and how I interact with men. And while they may never complete, those processes are on the back. They're way in the back, because I got processes today on, like, my business, my kids. I got adult children. I've still got a small child. Okay, what do I have to do today? Have I hit the gym? What am I eating? Those processes are taking place, and those are in the front of my mind because they have the majority of my attention, because they bring the most joy to me at this point in my life. Those processes bring me no joy. So when they come up, I can pick them up and be like, oh yeah, that's right. Oh, I did experience, like, this conversation right now. I can pick back up my experience and reflect how I was feeling at that time, but not pick up the trauma from it and wear it. I'm not wearing the badge of abortion participant. As far as how I walk through the world as a person who is processing, who is accepting, who is validated in those experiences, I walk proudly. I walk strong. I walk very assertively through the world, knowing that these experiences season my personality. Because when I show up to a networking event, or I show up and meet new people, I went on a cruise by myself. I met a lot of people. They're like, oh my God, your energy is so great. Like, wow, you're just so refreshing. And what I hear them saying is, I see your work. There's no way you can walk around as happy as you are and either been through nothing or have been through everything and actually got through it. That's what they're saying. They don't have to say that because they don't know me. They don't know what I've been through. But what I hear is, I see you heal. I see the healing within you. I see that you find a reason to smile in spite of, because of. And I say it that way because so many people are, in spite of what I've been through, I'm still here. Whoa, that's such a pessimistic way of looking at things. For me, mindset training is everything. I just wrote a book about it. You got to unleash your potential. For me, it's unlocking my mindset. My mindset suggests that in spite of the things that I've been through, not only am I still here, but because of the things that I've been through, and I'm healing and I've processed through them, mostly, I am phenomenal. I'm a phenomenal individual. And I'm able to live my life in peace with happiness in the front of my mind because of, in spite of. So both two things can be true at the same time. You can be processing through emotional trauma and also find happiness in the fact that you're here, that you made it through, that your existence is purposeful, that God created you for your reason, and your job is just to figure out how and why. If I gotta go through hell, I need you to go through hell with me. I need you to be strong enough to go through hell with me. I need you to tarry with me. I need you to coddle me. I need you to touch me. I need you to love me. But it has to be from healed hands. It can't be from your trauma hands. I can't be crying with you because I'm still healing. It has to be, you have to be nurse. You have to be, helper. You have to be, pastoral. You have to have done the training and the healing of your own so that when I'm going through, when I'm tarrying, that you can be the intercessory person, interceding for me, between me and my maker, between me and my healing. My healing's there, and here you are, and here I am. I got to go through you to get to my healing because I've been trying to go straight on my own and I didn't have the necessary tools. So guide me, coach me, move me, manipulate me in the positive sense so that I feel validated. Here we go again. And confident to go through to the other side where my healing is, even though it's murky and I can't quite see my way through. Help get some of the gunk from my eyes. Help heal some of the tension in my shoulders and my neck. Because when people get stressed and anxiety, that trauma lives here. It lives here. This is why massage and yoga becomes so important, because you got to stretch through. I do a lot of dance when I do a lot of stretching. We do a lot of there's healing.
You got to move the energy and release the blockages.
Yes. So coach me, carry with me, intercede for me, be there with me. And if you've got a room of 10 women, you need at least 5 women doing that process, because no one should feel alone. I can rub 2 backs. I can be squeezing 2 necks. I can help sing to 2 people. Can't do more than that, because if we're really going to heal you, you need attention. You're paying me for my attention. And I need to give you the empathy and the time so that you are getting what you need from this experience. Because you should walk away having never been the same. You should walk away having never experienced this level of transformation,
of love and care.
You should know what real love feels like in that moment in time. Because most women, I find that through the retreats that I've done, the retreats that I've been a part of, that's how I found love for myself. Because I found love in the healing, because I had never felt love like that before, where someone was going to toil with me, for me, through me, so that I could feel God's love for myself. Because a lot of us just can't do it on our own. We don't know how. We're not given the tools. So if you're given the tools, and I'm right there on the ground with you, I'm toiling with you, you can't do nothing but rise up, and dust the ashes off your body and be made whole again and be brand new. When I went through my Reiki session with my girl who introduced me to such healing, You know,
Mhm.
to this day, I validate her in her ability to heal because I had never been loved like that before. No one
Mm.
had ever validated my trauma on that level. Knowing I'd been through therapy, knowing I'd been through improvisational classes and done all sorts of work, but I'd never
Mhm.
been healed energetically.
Hmm.
And that was such a deeper level of healing that I now understand why so many broken people walk this world, because we're relying on religion to heal
Mm.
us. And that's not how
Mm.
that institution was designed. It's
No.
designed to appease, pacify, and maintain. It's not
Mhm.
designed to heal.
It's
God
not.
can heal you,
Mm.
but in order to learn that, you've really got to have somebody who has your best interests in mind. And typically those interactions don't involve money. They just don't. And so that's a deeper conversation, but that's the whole.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people who are
Yeah.
looking for it, and they're not finding the spaces that they're going to because those spaces were not designed to give you that, unfortunately.
Well, then, okay, so then how do you judge if a product or a service is good or bad for you, or right or wrong for you?
Very good question. For me, it is in the fruits of the labor. Now, when you're brand
Mm.
new, obviously you have nothing to go off of. And the retreats that I've done, privacy is very important to me.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't take a lot of pictures. I didn't take a lot of video. I only videoed the people that were okay with it, and many were not. So I don't have a
Mm-hmm.
lot of visual for that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay because I've been able to validate the experience through my words. People see my light in how I shine. People trust the people I'm associated with because I have proven my integrity and my character through my work. And so my workload speaks for itself. So that when they say Tahara's coming to speech, they're like, oh, okay, we know this is going to be good because I've proven
Mm-hmm.
that. And that's so one of my prayers, one of my manifestations for this year has been, God, give me more speaking engagements,
Mm-hmm.
more opportunities to be in front of people where I can tape what I'm doing so that people have the opportunity to see what I'm capable of. And I've got 3 or 4 lined up this year so far. But again, that's part of the work that I'm doing to manifest those things because I didn't have that last year, but I also wasn't asking for it. So now that I'm in a
Mm-hmm.
space asking for what I want, God is
Mm-hmm.
providing. So,
Yeah.
the validation comes in seeing and writing about and what you're doing, blogging, all those things are important.